everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. Today we're going to do a little work on the dually. If you've been following this series from the beginning, you'll know that we did a whole bunch of work on the front end of this truck. And one of the jobs we did was we rebushed the track bar. A brand new track bar was, I don't know, 100 or 200 bucks or something, when all that really goes wrong with them is the bushings. And I bought the bushings, good quality ones, for about $20. We pressed them in and put the thing back in and all was fine. And there is nothing actually wrong with the new bushings, but when I was getting ready to take this thing in to get it certified, I just wanted to make sure that everything was hunky-wunky under the front end of it. And I got Deb to jiggle the steering wheel while I was under there. And I'm talking with the vehicle stationary, right? That puts the most load on the steering when you're trying to jiggle it back and forth sitting on cement. And she started juking the wheel back and forth, and I could not believe the amount of deflection in those track bar bushings. So I decided at that point I would like to pull the thing back out, and we're going to try some polyurethane bushings in it. The next step beyond that is to go right to an aftermarket track bar with rod ends or heim joints, whatever you want to call them. I don't want to go that far, but I would like to tighten it up just a little bit. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to run the front of it up on some ramps, and then I'll set the camera up under there, and we'll see how much deflection there is with the rubber bushings. Then we'll swap it out and see how much deflection there is with the poly bushings. All right, here we go. Let's watch how much this thing deflects when I wiggle the steering back and forth. Pretty crazy, eh? So we're going to go ahead and pop this baby out. What you can do with these, there's a later style that uses a larger bolt. If you want, you can get the later ones and drill the holes out in this and put the larger bolt in. But I'm not too worried about that. I just want better bushings. The bolt on this end is a little bit shrouded by the steering linkage. You can see there. I don't know if it's because we've swapped to the 4th gen style steering. I guess it is, because with the Y style steering, I don't think this bar would be in front of the bolt. So we'll grab a flex socket I think we're going to need for this. The bolts will come out relatively easy if your truck is clean. They use these flag nuts on the back side of them to hold them. If you're a salt belt guy, you may have a whole bunch of fun with this. You may have to end up cutting the bolts because as soon as you turn it, this will go around. It'll tear the flag off the nut. And sometimes you can grab it with a wrench. Sometimes you can't, because by the nature of it having the flag pressed on it, and then the corners of the nut get eroded away by the salt, there's not always a lot to grab there. So just beware. Sometimes even just a little map gas torch will put enough heat into it to allow you to loosen it up. And then you'll have the next issue of the bolt being stuck into the bushing. And it's just, the salt belt is a nasty place to work on cars, that's for sure. So just be prepared for that if that's where you're at. But on this one, it's okay. Here's the bushing kit we're going to use. It's from Energy Suspension, and there is the number if you want to do this to your truck. And now it's important to read the instruction before you start pushing stuff apart, because some polyurethane bushings want you to push the whole bushing out, and some of them want you to just take the rubber out and you leave the outer sleeve of the bushing behind. So we're going to get into the instructions here and see what it says. According to the instructions, we are to remove the entire bushing. And I quickly checked with a caliper and made sure. The hole in the track bar is 1.5 inches, and these are like 1 9/16 or 1 5/8. So it gives it a little bit of interference fit, So that's what we're after. So we will knock the entire bushing out. And then another thing you want to do before you start is make sure, because there is mix and match that goes on over the years, make sure your bolts are compatible with the holes in the sleeves. And we're good there too. Some of these years, I think there was one year that actually had the large bolt at one end and the normal bolt at the other end. But this truck has the same bolt at both ends. So now we got to find some suitable drivers and stuff. We'll go over to the press, and we're going to start by pushing the old bushings out. Okay, here we go. We're going to push the bushing out. Now what you want, I'm going to show you on the bushing I've already got out. I made sure I could do this before I started filming. You don't want, when you're pushing on it, you don't want to push right on here. You got to be really careful with the socket you pick or whatever you're using to push it out, because if you do it wrong, it could get down inside there and kind of spread that and put like a little bit of a flare on it, and it will never come out in 1,000 years. So because I knew this was a newish bushing and that the rubber was in there pretty good, I picked a socket that mostly pushed on the rubber, and it pushed the thing right out. Sometimes what you may have to do is go at it bit by bit, right? If it's really stuck in there good, you may have to use a small socket and try pushing the center sleeve out, and then cut the rubber out. And then you might have to get in there with a hacksaw blade or a punch or something and get this out. Sometimes you got to do it how you got to do it. But this one is going to work out pretty well, I think. Let's see here. See, on this end, it's a little tighter. There it goes. Okay. It started pushing the rubber. Now it's pushing the whole thing. It's coming. Very slowly, but it's coming out. And then all of a sudden it'll go bang and it'll be out. Nearly there. There we go. She's out. Next, we just want to make sure these bores are clean. So we just go in here with a little bit of emery or a wire brush, whatever you've got. And then what else we have to do is make note of one side of this will have a little bit of a radius or a chamfer on it, and the other side will be sharp. This they do to just help guide the bushing in. So we have to make sure this is which side we're going to push the bushing from. You can see on the other end, same thing. It's got the little chamfer on this side. Energy Suspension supplies us with a little tube of their silicone grease to get this thing together. So we're going to grease up the bore of the track bar, and we need to grease up this face, because that's how it's going to go in. And there's two ways you can do this. You can draw it in with a bolt and a couple of big washers, or you can do it on the press. We'll maybe do each end either way, just so we can see how you could do that. We'll do this end here with drawing it in with the bolt first. So we're going to start with a blob of this in here and smear it all around. This will also cut down on squeaks, because that's the one thing with polyurethane bushings is they squeak. We're going to get some around that face there, and then we'll get some on the leading edge of this bushing. So here we go. I think this will work. It's just a matter of keeping everything kind of straight and steady, and then you just slowly pull it in, theoretically. Get a little load on it. Oh, there it goes. It's starting to go in on that side. Yep, there she goes. Yeah, and there it goes. And once it gets started in, you'll see there it straightens up. Okay, now what we have to do now, I'm pretty sure if we take this thing off, we will find that the nub, the end of it is oh, it is all the way through. Look at that. I didn't think it would be, but it is. Perfect. So you know what? I think we're going to forego the press and just put both ends in this way because it goes nice and smoothly, and you do end up with a kind of a nice feel for it, you know? Let's see here. Yeah, that's super. And then the last step, we put a little more grease in there. And a little bit on here. And we push the center in. Yeah, that's not going to want to go in. We'll have to pull that in with a bolt also. That's easy enough. I'll wait till I'm done this on the other end, and then we'll get a different bolt and we'll pull both of those steel parts in. All right, let's get this guy in. We're on a roll here. Whoops. Ratchet, got to get the ratchet going the right way. So here we go. Same as the other one. We'll start tightening it up, and then all of a sudden, one side of it will start to go in. There she goes. Come on. Or that's how it went in the other end. There it goes. There she goes. And hopefully, there, I just felt it pop through the other side. These will have less deflection than the rubber ones did. But there's only one way to find out. I mean, for what the things cost, I think they were 20 bucks or 24 bucks or something. It was, you know, relatively cheap. Now we'll grease up this end. There, and we'll just find a different bolt and we can pull this in. Okay, here we go. We got this thing rigged up now to pull the center sleeve in. This shouldn't be nearly as hard as the bushing was to go in. There it goes. In she goes. But you can feel it. I mean, it's in there snug. It's not loose flopping around, so. There we go. Then we'll do the other end, and we can put it back in the truck. Ta-da! The last thing they want us to do is grease the faces of this thing, I guess so it doesn't squeak when it twists against the chassis of the truck or the axle. There we are. Now we can go put it back in. So you kind of feed the bar in up and over the steering stabilizer here. And then we got a tap on the end of it because the polyurethane bushing fills the entire cavity this way. So whereas the metal one had a little wiggle room, this one does not. So we just got to tap it in, and we're watching until we get it lined up. We're just about there. Once we got the bolt on this end in and the flag nut started on from the back, we'll just leave that loose. And then we're going to go ahead and work at getting this end of it worked up into its little bracket on the frame there and get the bolt started in it. Last step is to torque these bolts, and this is very, very important. They've got to be torqued up to, for this one, this 03 with the smaller bolts, 150 is the torque on these bolts. And that's very important because if it's loose a little bit, it'll let the bolt actually start going like that and it'll egg out the holes and you'll be in a world of hurt then. It's hard doing this laying on your back, but we're okay. There we go. That's that end. Now we'll just get the other end. And that is why on the later trucks, they increased the size of the track bar bolts. Not because they were breaking or anything, but because they wanted to increase the clamping load. So they needed to go to a larger bolt so they could tighten it more to make 1000% sure that that track bar bolt wasn't going to start going like this and egg out the hole in the frame at that end or the axle at this end. Now we'll get it back on the floor and redo the jiggle test and see if it looks any different under there. Okay, here we go. Let's see. I'll get up in there and do some jiggling and we'll see if it's better, worse, the same, what. Okay, well, I'll look at the video in a second, see what I think. To me, like up above, when it deflects, like if it deflects this way, the bar deflects this way, the rest of the truck goes that way. And I could see from up above where I was, the fenders of the truck going back and forth. To me, it seemed a lot less than they were before. But anyway, we'll review the video and see what it looks like. Well, after reviewing the video a little bit, I could see that, yes, the polyurethane bushings greatly reduced the amount of deflection in the track bar. And you got to remember, what we see at this end is double because it's got a bushing in both ends. So this thing was moving, I'd say it was moving like total a quarter, maybe even 3/8 of an inch. So you double that, we're talking 1/2 or 3/4 of an inch of lateral deflection. And that means the axle is moving back and forth sideways that much, which is probably steering it slightly too. Not a lot, but slightly. So hopefully we've made it drive better. We'll find out anyway once we get it out on the road. Yeah, I'm very happy with that. I guess that's it for that job. Very happy with how that turned out. I couldn't believe it when I saw how much that track bar was moving with the rubber bushings in it. But, well, it doesn't move that much now. Anyway, the next project for this truck, now that I've got that done, it's got to go up to the dealership and it's going to get the airbag recall done. I'm going to get them to do an alignment on the front end. And I may or may not get them to deal with that 633 code for the skim module. I've got a couple of buddies that have a lot better scanners than I've got, and I may see if they can clear it rather than pay them guys an hour of labor to clear it for me, right? You know, I'm not scared to pay my way, but sometimes it gets a little ridiculous. Anyway, I'd like to thank you for tuning in. Hope you'll come back and see us again, and until then, I'm Kevin saying so long from the Claremont Classic Garage.